Welcome back to the channel of Truth, Trust, and Transparency. Today, I'm going to take you through my 4-step framework in order to find a development site in 2025 and beyond. This will work in any year, in any area, and I'm hoping to give you guys a little bit of clarity and understanding around what it takes to be able to find a development site. Follow these 4 steps. By the end of it, you should have something on your plate if you are persistent enough. Remember, don't give up if after the first couple of weeks you don't get anything, but I'm going to run you through the 4-step framework. Also to note as well, if you can subscribe. I'm posting a video every single day until the end of 2025, giving you as much information, golden nuggets as possible. If you need a question answered, especially around property investing or development, please let me know in the comments. If not, let me run into this. So this is obviously the type of people and a lot of the content that I will filter this stuff to, especially in property development, is going to be small scale developers. Why? Obviously, if you're out there building apartments or multi-res, you're probably not going to be on YouTube trying to figure out how to do it. There is also a lot more complexity once we go into class 2 apartment buildings and we have things like basements, DBP, and those kinds of things. But enough about that, and into my 4-step process. So the number one, and I've done a couple of videos on development, so if you're keen to get into it and keen to learn a little bit more, go have a look at them. I'll pop one of them up here regarding around how much money you need and how to work backwards from that. But essentially, step 1 is going to be sort out funding strategy. Now, why you want to do this first? You want to know how you're going to pay for the site, acquire the site, develop the site, and go on and go forth. For example, if a site pops up for you to buy and you haven't sorted this out yet and you need to do, say, an equity withdrawal, well, that could be a few weeks. Most of the deals that I've picked up, the agents need a response. If it's off market, typically off market or deceased estate, the family, you've got a day, maybe you've got a couple of hours to do, or half a day to do a review of that site and get back to the agent. You don't have weeks and weeks and weeks. You need to strike while the iron is hot. One thing that Scotty Agate always says as well is speed will win or lose deals. So you need to be quick. So sort out funding strategy. So what is this? This could be equity release, depending if you've got a property portfolio. I always say 300, 400, 500 grand is a good place to start. So build that resi base first, then harvest the equity, then you can go into development, or it's sorting out capital, partners, cash, equity, or both. So you need to work out your funding strategy. Are you coming into it with capital partners? If you do, you need to sort out how much money, what the appetite is, what they have available. If you're doing it yourself, maybe you're doing an equity release and or sale. I've actually sold down property in the past. Sold them, used the funds, and put it into development. Why? Well, you take $1 million property, for example, and if it's doing 7% a year, I'm making $70,000 a year. That's not too much. Over 2 years, with that amount compounded, I might make 150, 200 grand. I know if I take that money out, once it's done its run, I take that money out and I can put it into development. There's a good chance I can make anywhere between sort of 400, 500 grand up into a couple of mil in that same time frame. So for me, development is a way to turbocharge at a greater speed. So sort out funding strategy. The next one is going to be select development strategy. Now, I've said this in a couple of earlier videos. These two will work intertwined with each other, but you need to select and have down pat what is your development strategy. The reason why is because you can't be going, and it's the same thing with property investing, right? We've got the Everything Property podcast. I'll always interview people that are a little bit different each week, that have different scenarios, different strategies, and how they've built their wealth. I always say pick something that suits you, your risk appetite, your cash available, what you can do and what you can manage. What is your, say for example, risk appetite? What are you comfortable with doing? You need to select what that is before you start. Why? Otherwise, you'll go down one route and you'll look at, land subdivisions in new greenfield areas. And then you'll see someone that's made money on a duplex. Then you run down the duplex path. And then you'll be like, but what about Dave's talking about townhouses? Then you're going down these different avenues and you haven't finalized what you're actually doing. Pick your development strategy. Mine, for example, is townhouses. Yours could be duplex. Yours could be additional dwelling. You could be new house, brand new house build, anything like that. But you must pick your development strategy. After that, simple. Once you have these two things selected, chosen, sorted out, I know how I'm going to fund the deal. I know the cash available. I know the strategy. 3 is then this 2 will give you location. Said it before, and I'll say it again on this channel. You need to be very strategic in with the location that you are picking to do this development strategy with the funding that you have available. Why? Ladies and gentlemen, there is a simple curve that happens in a development market. Runs different to the property markets because of a few other factors, in my opinion. You don't want to be the person that's buying in these sorts of windows because you'll pay top dollar. The reason that you go in and buy there as well is that you see everybody doing that strategy. It's good, but it also means when you finish that product, there's going to be a lot on the market. A lot means choice. Choice means buyers get very picky and potentially you can't sell for a premium. I always say you want to be able to pick up this market here. There's a couple of markets I'm looking at the moment, right? I'll give you a perfect example. I won't tell you where because I don't need the competition. But there's markets where it's an expensive price point. I have seen 2 finished products come on the market. Now, I'm thinking that this area is good. I believe the numbers stack up. What I'm waiting for is the evidence that those deals, what they sell for, and then I can put that into my feasibility because I know the land, I know the construction, I know the other costs, but the sell costs, you want that proof of pudding in there. When you have too many in there and in that market, obviously then you have people get picky, you got competition. You want that scarcity factor when you are selling. So in here, I know, and walking through those particular developments, which I have lately, the product is not, in my opinion, great for those particular finished products that I'm looking at. So I know, and I go and look at these and I go, wow, if they get 5 million for that, or if they get 6 million, or they get 3 million for that, that is going to be really good and work in to my feasibility. So you must enter a market that has a handful of precedents. So when you go get your construction funding and the bank asks for a valuation and your valuer looks it up, if you're the first person in the suburb, then how can your valuer say, yeah, I agree, yeah, it is worth 2 mil? He has no precedents to go off. So you'd rather have a market, right, that has 3 or 4 precedents where, let's just say it's a 2 mil duplex, and you've got 4 recent sales, they're all 2, 2.1, 2.2, 2 mil. Then you know you are going to be right around that 2.1 mark. Whereas if you go to that market where there's 50 duplexes for sale, then your value is going to see the one that sells for 1.6, the one that sold for 1.3, then the 2 mil one, and then you'll get a valuation that's a little bit lower. So really time your location, really time the entering of that location. Don't focus around what other people are doing. I always say pick that green sea, pick that blue sea where not every man in their dog is. Now, when I have that location, simple. When I have that location, very simple. How can I pick the location? Well, my friends, I've got the strategy, so I need to make sure it's a location that fits the development strategy. I'm timing it here, right? And I know how I'm going to fund it, so I'll also be able, because I have how much money I need, or how much money the deal will make, and the strategy, that will give me the location. So if you've got $300,000 to do and run a deal, then obviously you're not going to be looking in markets that expensive, like Point Piper or something like that. Maybe you go to it, and I'm talking Sydney. Maybe that's a Southwest Sydney play where you pick up a site for $8, $9, $1 million. You can put down a 20%, 30% deposit, and you still got a little bit of change. That will help that location. Then there's two other spots left. So after we've got the strategy, we've got the funding, we know what we're developing, we know the location, and we're going out to get lead gen. Lead gen happens in two ways. The first is agents. The second is you. So I've got the location. I know what strategy I'm doing. I've got my funding strategy sorted out. These two, you go back and forth. Then after that is sequential. Then I go to lead generation. So then I talk to and I start to look at who are the agents in the area, who are the ones that are selling the development sites, who are the ones that are selling the finished product, because they're likely to have sold the development site to the builder or developer in the first place. I'm building those relationships up with agents, chatting to them on the phone. Hey, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm looking at. And then things that you can do to do your own lead generations. Letterbox shops, door knocking, talking to people is the best way for you to generate those leads and for you to find a development site. So a lot of people will do this the other way around, and they'll see an agent selling a development site and then they'll try to work backwards off there. But it's like, you don't know if you can fund that. And is that your strategy? They sort of get confused. So sort out your funding strategy and your development strategy first. What are you comfortable in doing? I always say, if you're new to this, try to get in the market for something a little bit cheaper, so you don't burn yourself completely. But just remember, the cheaper you go, the lower your profit will go. So you might be doing a deal where you make $150,000, $250,000, and it might take you 12 to 18 months. As long as you're comfortable with that. Me personally, I'd need it a little bit more expensive so it's worth my time, and it has a really good return. Sort out your funding, sort out your strategy. Those two together will give you the location. After I'm in the location, I look at lead gen. 1, agents. 2 is going to be what I can do myself. Door knocking, letterbox shopping, all those kinds of things. There's probably another video in letterbox shopping and lead generation. One bit of advice I will give you if you're out there and you're thinking about this or thinking about doing it is the first couple are going to be daunting, extremely daunting and scary to do if you're not an extrovert like me. However, the more times you do it, the better you start to get at it. The better you start to get at it, then you can start to ask the right questions, get the right intel, get the right knowledge. If anything, you start to build up that local area expertise around who's who in the zoo, agents, and by talking to the locals. The agents might give you feedback around what's good, what's selling, what's good and what's not. The agents will give you, look, this is a hard sell. I went to one the other day and there was a lift in it. And 3 stories, the lift went from basement to living area. But for some reason, the builder didn't continue, probably because of the layout, but the builder didn't continue the lift from the ground floor up until the first floor. So for me, I'm like, in my head, I was like, that's pointless of putting in a lift but not running it across all the floors. So I said to the agent, I said, hey, what are your thoughts on the lift not going to the top floor? Agent said, absolute deal killer. The whole reason you have a lift is so someone can traverse the entire property without needing to use the stairs. So it's as good as not having one at all if it's not all 3 stairs. So the agents will help give you that on the ground local knowledge, as well as the people that you can talk to, anyone in the street, neighbors, people getting in and out their cars. You're asking those people, you're starting to ask and dial in those questions. But guys, short and sharp from me today. If you're looking for a development site, these are the 4 steps you need to do. Stay very patient at this game here. Sometimes it can take an extremely long time to crack into a market, but once you get that one site, as we know, marketing, sales, pics, videos, online presence, then you can go out, then you can build up some momentum. So to crack that first deal, you might be in that market for a couple of months, but stay patient. If anything, we've got people in the course as well, in our property investment course, that, you know, after a week or two, they're like, oh, I haven't got any off markets, or I've only got 1 or 2 off markets. It's like, you need to stay patient, because the type of deal you're looking for, you know, there might be 6 in the last 30 days. So you know that you need to, you know, in a month there should be 4 to 6. So after 2 weeks, you might not have them, but week 3, week 4, week 5, week 6 might be where they pop up. As always, guys, let me know thoughts, questions in the comments. And as I usually say at the end of these videos, I will see you tomorrow.